All the modules of IELTS, I would say, are a bit technical. But again, don't worry. I'm here and it's my job to share my knowledge with you and make things easy and simple. So don't worry. The heading, as you see, it's about mastering IELTS Writing Task 1. So this is going to be the episode 1. In the episode 2, I'll be sharing more on this particular heading, mastering your writing task 1. So what are the key learning episodes? In fact, what are you going to learn by watching this particular session? Okay, over the next hour, we'll dive deep into the format, the structure, paragraphing particularly. It's very important because you have a question that how many paragraphs I need to write in the task 1 and how many words I need to write. These are the things that we are going to discuss today. So let's begin with the challenge, 30 seconds challenge. Don't worry. I know you love to undertake challenges and you are bold enough, so don't worry. So you see this is actually a line graph. So if you don't understand even now, so don't worry. I will make things easy and simple for you. Okay, so let's take this challenge first of all. And now spend 10 seconds on the task and write just one sentence in 20 seconds on the line graph. Okay, whatever you understand by observing this line graph, don't worry. So the question is, how would you link those variations to the town's tourism industry or local festivals? So your job is to just link. Okay, if you find it's very technical, don't worry, there is no problem. Okay, so this is a very typical task 1 question. So these are the things that we are going to learn in 1 hour, I should say. The IELTS Writing Task 1 holds immense significance in the IELTS writing module because it assesses your ability to describe and interpret visual data. So this is actually a visual data. Again, you see a different bar chart. So what you have to do and what a candidate has to do, in fact, you have to interpret the visual data into sentences, okay, into words, of course, effectively. So mastering task 1 enables you to convey information accurately, showcase vocabulary and grammar skills, and ultimately achieve a higher overall band score in the IELTS exam. Okay? In fact, it assesses your ability to describe and interpret visual data. So let's learn the format and the structure. So it follows a specific format, okay, designed to assess your ability to analyze and interpret visual data, okay? And in this task, you'll be presented various types of visual information, namely line graph, bar charts, pie charts, or just tables. And your objective is to provide a clear and concise written response, summarizing the key information, trends, and significant features, okay, which actually depict in the given data. So what you have to do, don't spend more than 20 minutes and you should write over 150 words. Writing task 1 is actually worth only about 33% of your total writing mark, and your writing will be marked on task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resources, and grammatical range and accuracy. So let's get introduced with all different types of writing task 1. So this is actually a simpler version of a line graph. So this one is about 2 different pie charts. So again, you see comparisons between men and women. If you see the heading on the top, it shows reasons given for using the internet in Vietnam by men. And there is another heading for the other pie chart. It shows that reasons given for using the internet in Vietnam by women. I'm not diving into the technical aspects because you might consider that they are too technical. So that's why I'm not in fact into the technical aspects. I'm just giving you a very basic idea that what we understand by watching them. Okay, so don't worry, it's coming. This is again a pie chart and a bar chart. Okay, on the top that's a pie chart, and below that's a bar graph. A bar graph and a line graph. Okay, on the top that's a bar graph, and below a line graph. This is a simple map, and you need to identify the directions, particularly if there is a compass like this showing, you know, the north and the south and the east and the west. For, I mean, every case, I would say the north shows, you know, on the top direction, and below, if you consider the direction showing below, that is actually the south, and on your right that is east, and on your left that is west. This is a process diagram. It looks a bit critical, but don't worry. In the next session we will discuss them, okay, in detail. So my dear friends, the key information for writing task 1, okay, you are required to write 150 words or more. You have around 20 minutes to plan and write. You should use a formal style of writing, and writing task 1 is actually, you know, worth 33% of the total mark in the writing test. So this is a typical question, okay, typical question, task 1 question. The line graph below shows the consumption of 3 different types of fast food in Britain from 1970 to 1990. Okay, so what do we have to do? We have to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so these are the things that we have to do in our writing task 1. Okay, so now the question is how, okay, how we're going to do that. So let's learn the structure. Okay, so there are 3 main components in writing task 1. Okay, so what are the 3 main components? Your response, your answer should consist of 3 main components. Okay, firstly, begin with an introduction where you paraphrase the task statement to set the context. Secondly, provide an overview of the main trends, yes, or feature illustrated in the visual data, highlighting the most significant information. And finally, support your overview with specific details such as data comparison, specific figures, or notable points. Okay, so these are 3 main components for your writing task 1, and that you need to always keep in your mind, that these are the 3 main components that you need to put into your writing task 1. So how does it look like? Let's see them. Okay, so if I consider that you're going to put them in your writing, so how does it look like? So paragraph 1 basically paraphrase the question statement. Yes, of course there is a question statement that we have seen a few minutes back, a question statement of line graph. So you need to paraphrase, and the first paragraph is going to be your introductory paragraph, so where you need to just paraphrasing the question statement. Okay, and in the paragraph 2 you need to write the overview. We're going to learn them in detail, so don't worry. And paragraph 3 is basically the details. Paragraph 4 is also the details, the specific details, I would say. Okay. So let's learn this particular one, that how we're going to describe this particular bar chart. I mean, how we're going to introduce, write the introductory paragraph for this particular. We see, if I consider this chart, and if I consider the two different parts of this bar chart, on the left that is about the male and on the right is about female. If this is your bar chart, let me show you the introduction. Okay, so the bar chart compares. So the bar chart compares the enrollment of men and women in full-time and part-time British further education programs in the 1970, 80, and 90 school years. Okay, so this is how you write the introduction. So this is your question and the introduction. So the question says, the graphs below give information about computer ownership as a percentage of population between 2002 and 2010, and by level of education for the years 2002 and 2010. So as soon as you see that one, you start paraphrasing it. Okay, so the graph, that is actually a bar graph. So you write the bar chart. If there are like 2-3 charts, you write the bar charts show data about computer ownership with a further classification by level of education from 2002 to 2010. So this can be your introduction. But again, there are many ways. Let's learn the overview, which is actually the more critical and the more, I should say, the most important area for your writing tasks too. Okay, so in the overview, of course, that is the most important paragraph. The overview is simply a summary of the main, or I would say the most important points in a graph, chart, or process, or a map. Yes, and it is normally 2 to 3 sentences long, and should be the second paragraph after the introductory paragraph. And of course, it also influences what you write in the rest of the essay. So the overview, again, is one of the first thing an examiner looks for, because it shows them that you can identify the most important information from the graph or chart and clearly identify overall trends and comparisons. Okay, so let's see how to write an overview. An overview paragraph shows the most important information from the graph or chart and the overall trends and comparisons. So you see how you can fit in your overview. It is actually the after. It is actually, you can put your overview, or you can write your overview just after the introduction. But again, it is the most important area, the overview. And then you can write the paragraph, the body paragraph 3 and 4 for your feature 1 and feature 2. So now you have a question that how do I write an overview? Okay. Before that, we need to know why an overview, or why your task writing task is a band 5 or a band 6 or a band 7. Okay, that is the important area. Let's learn. Band 5 says recounts details mechanically with no clear overview. So you see, again, overview is very important. If you write mechanically, like if you are pushing it, okay, instead of understanding that what you need to include, then is going to be a band 5. Okay, there may be no data to support the description. Okay. For a band 6, it says your overview presents, or that writing presents, your writing task 1 presents an overview with information appropriately selected. So if you select the information for your overview appropriately and effectively, then you might get a band 7. But then what is a band 7? Band 7 says your writing presents a clear overview of main trends, okay, differences or stages. So main trends. If you'd like to get 7 or above, you need to identify the main trends. You will learn about trends in the coming session, don't worry. Just learn these terms that we require, because we are not going to discuss these particular things in our next session, because next session, the upcoming session, there are a lot more things to learn. So we are not going to learn these particular things that we have learned a few minutes back. Okay, so just keep them in your mind so that these would help you as a reference in our upcoming session. Okay, so we have learned an overview, and we have learned the differences between a band 5 and a band 6 and a band 7. So the most important thing is you should write a clear overview that has the trends, the main trends, the differences, the comparisons, if there is any, or the stages, if you can write the stages. Okay, awesome. As I told you how to write the overview, okay? Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, okay? Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Selecting and reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. And you can do this in the overview paragraph by picking out 3-4 of the most significant things, or I should say, this is actually the trends you can see, and writing them in general terms. Okay. You also can do some comparisons. So these are things that we just learned in the last slide, in our previous slide. But do not give your opinion. Okay, you can pick 2 or 3 or maybe more significant things. I would say no more than 4, I should say. Then there is no significance, in fact, writing more than 4 significant areas. So less than 4, more than 2, I would say better. Okay, but do not give any opinion. Okay, so just write what you see, in fact. Okay, selecting main features in writing task 1. So how to select main features in writing task 1? There are generally 2 different kinds of charts and graphs. One is dynamic and another is static. If the chart, if there is the time written, duration period written in the chart, for example, if you consider the pie chart here, in fact, you see 2 different times. It is about or a comparison or a development of the 2 different times. One is, or maybe 2 different years. One is 2005, another is 2010. Okay, so 2 different years. You see the comparisons between, or a comparison between 2 different years. Okay, so this is a dynamic one. So what is the static one? The other one, the bar chart, is the static one, because there is no specific time or timing or duration or a development. Okay, so that's the static one. So that we need to learn in the beginning, that whether it's a dynamic or a static chart. So dynamic charts show data over time, and static charts show data at just one point in time, or the time may be written or may not be written. Okay, but again, these will affect the way you write and the data you select. Awesome. So there is a checklist for the dynamic graphs. I would say when we are looking at the dynamic graphs, we should be looking out for what is the trend from the start to the finish. Okay, and do they generally go up or down, or do they fluctuate? Okay, or if you find any significant difference from the general trend, and whether there is, or if you find, of course, the overall increase or a decrease, and the peaks and the lows. So these are things that you need to find from a dynamic graph. Okay, so if you'd like to pick the main features, the main areas, the trends, so these are the questions, these are the very critical questions that you ask yourself as soon as you find a graph or a chart or anything, pie chart, line graph. You ask these questions. If this is a dynamic chart, you ask these questions. So these are the questions, I would say, the most critical for your writing task 1. As soon as you ask these questions, you get an answer and you write them. So this is how you can write a specific and an effective writing task 1. So the checklist for your static graphs. What are the highest and the lowest values? What are the most noticeable differences? Any similarities? Any significant exceptions? So the question is, should I write conclusion or shouldn't I write any conclusion? The answer is, would you please write in the comment box? Are you going to write any conclusion or not? Please write in the comment box, my dear friends. Okay, the answer is basically no. Okay, you don't need to write any answer, any conclusion. Conclusions are really a summary of what you think or opinion. So we're not going to give any opinion in writing task 1. Okay, and this is not an opinion essay, of course, and you do not need to write a conclusion therefore. So save your conclusion for task 2. Okay, so my dear friends, what we have learned, can you remember? We learned a lot. We learned how to write an introduction. An introduction is the paraphrased version of the question. We have learned about writing an overview, which is the most important area. And we need to write a general overview of the main features. Okay? And examiners are interested in, highly interested in, I should say they would look into your overview very carefully. And in the body paragraph, just write the details in a logical way. Okay, so these are things that we have just learned, but we can learn more. We can learn more of them, and our learning would be sustainable, and you can remember them for a long time if you watch our upcoming session. What would happen in the upcoming session? You can recall all this, and then you can relate them as a reference. Okay, and this is how you can do a better, you can get a better score in your IELTS, particularly in your IELTS writing. So there might be a question, then how many words I need to write? Around 150 words or exactly 150 words or over 150 words? How many words I need to write? That's a big question. Okay. And how do I know how many words I have? Okay. So don't worry, I'm going to answer all those questions and more. You must write more than 150 words. You must write more than 150 words for task 1. You won't have time to count. Yes, of course, you don't have the time. You don't have any time to count all those words in the exam. Therefore, I suggest that you aim to write about 10% more than 150. Okay? 10% more of what you were expected to write. So in other words, aim to write around 160 to 170 words for task 1. And there is one problem. If you write less than 150, there is, I would say, you're unlikely to get more than band 5. Okay, if it is less than 150, there is less chance to get 6. Yes, so you understand this particular point, because in terms of task achievement, you get a poor score for this. So remember this particular point. At least 150 words, and aim to write more than 10% of what you are expected to write. And so I would say around 160 to 170 words for your writing task 1. Yes. And so you might have a question that should I write more words to get a good band score? Again, I would say that's not a good idea. For a few reasons, because one is time management. You don't have much time for this. Okay. Yes, of course. Time management is one of the most important things to learn in the IELTS writing exam. If you spend too much time on one question, you sacrifice marks on the other. And secondly, you are more likely to make grammatical mistakes for this. Okay. So I would say keep writing around 160 to 170 words. It's actually quality over quantity. You'd be assessed quality over quantity. So if you'd like to write around 200 words, there is no such good for this. Rather, I would advise you to write no less than 150, but no more than 170. Be around 160. So, can you remember what just we have learned? The IELTS Writing Task 1 presents you with visual data, such as graphs, charts, or tables. And your task is to provide a well-structured written response summarizing the key features, trends, and comparisons depicted in the given data. And the response should include an introduction and overview of the main trends or features and specific details to support your analysis. And your writing task 1 particularly requires concise and precise writing within a recommended word limit of 160 words. Okay? So, my dear friends, strategies for a high band. So, understand how the test is marked, paraphrase questions, and of course, write the overview and support the main features. So the strategies for a high band in writing task 1: remember to use appropriate vocabulary, varied sentence structures, and accurate grammar to convey your ideas effectively. Okay? And Aim to meet the recommended word limit of 150 words and ensure coherence and cohesion, or the logical progression throughout your response. Okay. By understanding and adhering to the format, you can confidently tackle IELTS Writing Task 1 and achieve a higher band score. So, my dear friends, in the upcoming session, you will get details, and I'll give you such things in your upcoming session so that you understand each and every details. Okay? And we will discuss how to develop an entire writing task 1. Okay? What else you want, my dear friends?